Right now, it's ABC24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
Welcome once again to ABC24 This Week. Glad you're with us this Sunday at 9 a.m. or 10:35 p.m. when we take a look at the real story behind the big stories. And this week, it's pretty simple. With early voting underway in the Memphis municipal election and 3 televised debates under their belts, the Memphis mayor's race is the talk of the town. We'll talk about the winners and losers in a week when a lot of undecided voters likely made up their minds. My panel will also look ahead to what they think the candidates need to do in the remaining weeks of their campaigns. And we'll take a break from mayoral politics to talk about the politics of sports stadiums as Tigers and Grizzlies fans get fired up over which venues should get renovated, if at all, using that $350 million pot of state money secured by Mayor Jim Strickland's administration. We'll get to all that in a moment, but first let me introduce my panel. Otis Sanford is ABC24 political analyst. Susan Adler-Thorpe is a political consultant with Thorpe Communications, and the Reverend Keith Norman is pastor
Have
of
I been gone that long?
It has been a while. You skipped a couple of your shifts there, you know. All right, well, thanks everyone for being here. This is when it gets fun, yes? When the mayor's race starts getting really close, and we have a new poll. Let's show that first. It is the most recent snapshot we have of how this race is going so far, conducted by Hart Research for TennesseeProspers.org, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and by all accounts is a fairly credible poll. Anyway, in the trial for mayor, as they called it, Paul Young had 20%, Floyd Bonner 19%, Willie Harrington has 13%, Van Turner 9%, then J.W. Gibson with just 5%, Joe Brown 4%, Michelle McKissick 3%. Big number there, though, undecided, 23%. All right, then they were asked, well, who would be your second choice for mayor? And when that came up, Paul Young, 15%. Then Van Turner was second with 14%. Michelle McKissick at 10%, tied with Willie Harrington also at 10%. Floyd Bonner, 8%. He dropped significantly there. Joe Brown, 7%. Karen Camper, 5%. And J.W. Gibson, 5%. So we should note that this poll was taken before the debates of this past week. It, in fact, was out of the field the Friday prior to our debate on ABC 24. How do you assess the race right now? Otis, we'll start with you.
Well, I think the poll is very telling. And when you put the polls and the debates, and of course, reaction to the debates are anecdotal in my mind. I don't have any scientific things, but based on the people I've been talking to since the debates were over, it shows me that Paul Young is really poised here to possibly win this election. It also tells me that Floyd Bonner, who was riding high early on, is peaking some. And it also tells me, thirdly, that Willie Harrington made a tactical mistake by not participating in these debates, and I think he's fading as well.
Okay, since we're talking about the debates, I want to show you a piece by Yvonne Cooper where she kind of summarized our 90-minute debate that ran Monday night, and then we'll pick up the conversation after that. How about a round of applause for all the candidates who took part tonight?
6 candidates on one stage. Candidates were in the hot seat answering our questions and questions from other candidates, mainly on leadership.
Starting with Karen Camper, you may ask your question.
I need to ask somebody a question.
Yes, we let your campaign know ahead of time.
Okay. Well, now.
I'll ask Mr. Bonner, what is it that you can do as mayor that you haven't been able to do as the chief law enforcement officer of Shelby County?
You've never called the sheriff's office. You never called THP. You don't know where the resources are. So when you start talking about alleviating crime, then you must have a degree of expertise.
Beale Street has a lot of vacancies sitting open today. Can you explain to the taxpayers why downtown is the way it is today?
And you would definitely know about vacancies on Beale Street, being that you were the person that owned New Daisy for many years and kept it in a vacant, blighted position.
Gershon Freeman was nude. He got out of his jail cell. Obviously, he was not armed. Yet he was beat to death by officers in the jail. And yet, when the request was made to release the tape, you refused. How can you be a transparent mayor when you've not been a transparent sheriff?
I do not work for ban crime. There are state laws that are in place that governs those particular tapes.
You asked a question of Willie Harrington, so I'll ask one of him as well. Where are you?
Former Memphis Mayor Willie Harrington was invited but declined to participate. The show went on without him, tackling the first big topic, crime.
We have to reform what we're doing. What we are doing is not working right now.
We're going to need community engagement to truly address the issue of crime.
That's when you can prevent crime. And then I'd love to hire a crime czar, someone who can work across agencies, with the MPD, with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, and with our private sector as well to get at this problem.
We need to address what's going on with the gang activity, RICO.
We got to hold people accountable, and we must intervene and prevent crime.
We need an additional 300 to 400 officers out on the street.
The debate wrapped up with this, each candidate giving a letter grade to Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis, then outgoing Mayor Jim Strickland.
Okay, so it was an interesting 90 minutes. Otis, he and I had a lot of fun doing it for sure. Susan, you are a supporter and consultant for J.W. Gibson's campaign, but I want to get your take now on where you think the campaign stands and what effect these debates may have had on the race as a whole.
Well, I thought the debate was an interesting debate. ABC24 was the first of 3 consecutive debates. That was the best place for you to be because you probably had the largest audience and they didn't peel off towards the end. You know, I think debates are great. It gives people an idea of who the candidates are. I like debates much more than I like following polls. Polls are simply a snapshot at a moment in time. And I think I doubt that this debate is going to move the polls that we just saw that much, unless it gives Van Turner a bigger bounce than the other candidates. Karen Camper, people asked before, who is she? And people were asking afterwards, who is she? She reminded me, I'm sure she's a very nice woman, but I kept thinking, is she worried that she forgot to turn the lights off when she left the house? She was not with us in that debate. So how did they all do? I think Bonner came across well. I think he answered. He's just not a good debater, but I think he gave some solid answers. I think Van Turner was on the attack. He showed that he could strut his stuff. I thought that Paul Young presented himself well. I mean, he presents himself very well in a public forum. So, and personally, I thought J.W. Gibson did a fine job. So. Can I criticize all of them? Yeah, to some extent, but the truth is I think that the numbers are, what we see in the polls now, they won't move that much after the debate unless it benefits Van Turner.
All right. Reverend Norman, what's your assessment, and do you have a horse in this race yet?
Yeah, I got a horse in this race for sure. But because I'm going to vote. I'm a voter, so
right.
I definitely have a horse. But here's what I saw. Missed opportunities across the board. There is a point in time when everybody knows what the #1 issue really is. It was crime. Nobody came up with the real legs to say, here's how I'm going to address it. And then each of the candidates started showing a little bit more pushback. I like Paul. Paul has come through, in my opinion, first or second in most of the debates. I mean, he is really showing a steadiness and a consistency. In the beginning, we were asking, who is Paul Young? Now we know who Paul Young is. His name recognition has come up. He's stepping out and he's moving forward. Some of you said some things about the other candidates. I won't repeat those, but that's exactly where we are. Now, if you notice in both of the polls we show, Paul was #1. He was the first choice. He won by 1% of his vote. But then he was also the #2 candidate. He won again. And so that means those people who have a reason to not vote for the second or third place person here or in some of the lower numbers will fall to Paul. And so that means something. Here's the thing that concerns me. Still, 1/4 of the percentage of the voters are undecided. That means there's no heavyweight in the ring, nobody who has really come through and messaged well enough so that people are saying, 3 weeks out, this is who our mayor should be.
Well, I think that and let's talk about those undecided.
Do those undecideds vote, first of all? Do a lot of them just decide, I can't decide, so I'm not going to vote? I'm hearing that on the streets. Do you think that's true?
No. I think the vote is not going to be as high as we think it's going to be. I think it's going to be depressed. There are too many candidates in the race. I think people are confused, and I think some people think my vote doesn't make a difference, so I'm just going to stay home. So you're going to see a lower turnout than we expect. But that 23% undecided, who is that 23%? And from that poll that we saw, apparently it skews towards African American women, older African American women, 50 and older. So what do these candidates need to do? They need to look at this poll closely. It's as independent of a poll as that's out there, and they need to figure out who do they address, where do they go, and is it too late in the game? I don't think so. They've got another 2.5 weeks to get their message out.
But they missed the free airtime. I mean, the debates were the time when you don't have to pay to go get your message out. And they missed wonderful opportunities to really get that message across and specifically speak to those people.
Yeah, but we are great at Monday morning quarterbacking. You know, it's super for us to do that. But when you're not used to debating and you're there with the cameras on you and the lights on you, it's pretty tough.
Stay home. Don't run for mayor.
Well, one of them did.
Yeah, don't
one
run
of
for
them,
mayor.
one of them stayed
if you are not ready for this, if you're not ready for a debate, how are you going to stand in front of the Lions clubs and in the front of the constituencies across this city when you can't take a little heat? You can't be a thin-skinned mayor in the city of Memphis, Tennessee.
I'm just
You've got
saying,
to stand up
Keith,
and
I'm
answer
just
the
saying that
questions.
it's different to debate on a political debate than it is to stand to the Lions Club and say thank you for inviting me.
All right.
That's it.
And keep in mind, they all said that they had been at upwards of 25 to 30 forums before the TV debate, so they should have had a little bit.
They've had a chance. I don't know. I keep everybody saying ready on day one, right?
Well,
but you weren't ready for the debate.
Just one is ready on day one.
Okay, we're running heavy on the segment, but does anyone have momentum right now as you see it? And I ask that because Van Turner did pick up some key endorsements this week. Steve Cohen and Lee Harris both endorsing him, in addition to Justin Pearson. Those are some heavyweights.
Yeah. Van Turner and Paul Young have the momentum right now. Willie Harrington and Sheriff Bonner, I think they are losing the momentum right now. That's how I see it.
Okay, well, go ahead.
I see Bonner has kind of leveled out. Harrington may be losing the momentum, but I agree the momentum belongs to Paul and to Van Turner.
Okay, you agree with that too?
I agree with that.
All right, we're all in agreement on that. All right, very good. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about where the candidates go in the weeks ahead leading up to the October 5th election right after this.